A billionaire found his grandson living in a shelter during Christmas Eve. On Christmas Eve, a billionaire discovered his grandson had been sleeping in shelters since age 2, while millions meant for the boy funded a penthouse life. The child believed his grandfather hated him. The father said so himself. When a phone call exposed what the money was really paying for, everything collapsed. Before we go any further, we'd love for you to hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to us, and it helps us bring you even more powerful stories. Now let's begin. Malcolm Hayes kept his grief polished like a shoe people only saw from a distance. On paper, he was a black billionaire who owned towers and boards and influence. In private, he was the man who still reached for a daughter who was not there. His only child, Leanne, had died in childbirth 13 years earlier. The baby lived. The room went quiet. The son-in-law, Ethan Caldwell, cried hard, shook hands, spoke about family, said all the right things. Malcolm wanted to believe him. He needed to. So, he trusted Ethan to raise the boy. He wired support like clockwork, $20,000 every month. No missed transfers. No, next week. 13 years of payments piling up into a number so big it stopped feeling real. He asked to see his grandson Jonah again and again. Every request met a smooth excuse. He's at school, he's at training, he's traveling with a tutor. Ethan's voice always sounded busy, always a little irritated, like Malcolm was asking for a favor, not his own blood. By the 6th year, people around Malcolm started whispering. At charity dinners, a woman in pearls leaned close and murmured, "You never bring the boy." A driver heard staff gossip in the lobby. "It's weird," someone said. "All that money and no grandkid." Malcolm acted like he didn't hear it. His jaw tightened anyway. On Christmas Eve, the quiet hit harder. Malcolm sat in his study, fingertips tapping the edge of Leanne's old photo frame. He stared at the frozen smile, then at the empty chair across from him. The house smelled like pine and expensive candles, but it felt cold. He called Ethan. No small talk. "I'm seeing Jonah tonight," Malcolm said. Ethan laughed once sharp. "That's impossible. He's out of town." "With who?" Malcolm asked. A pause, a breath with friends. "Look, Malcolm, don't do this right now." Malcolm watched the second hand sweep. He felt something in him go flat. He said quietly, "Text me the address." Ethan didn't. Instead, Ethan sent a picture. A blurry shot of a teen in a hoodie, face half turned. "He's fine," the message read. "Stop stressing." Malcolm's thumb hovered over the screen. The photo looked wrong, too generic, too staged, like a prop. He zoomed in until pixels broke apart. The kid's hands were too clean, nails trimmed, no shelter-chapped skin. Ethan had once joked about Jonah costing a fortune. Now the joke sounded like a confession. It made him dizzy, bad. He stood slow and straightened his cuffs. He didn't shout. He didn't threaten. He made one call, the kind of call people made when they were done being lied to. "Find my grandson," he told the investigator. And that was when the real story started. The investigator did not waste time. He moved quietly the way men did when they expected something ugly. He followed money first, because money always told the truth when people did not. The transfers were clean, consistent, impossible to miss. 20,000 every month like a heartbeat. But when he followed the child's name, the trail collapsed. There were no tuition payments, no pediatrician records past age 2, no summer programs, no insurance tied to the boy. The absence itself became evidence. Then came the shelter logs. The first intake form dated back 11 years. Jonah Caldwell, age 2, dropped off by an adult male who signed and left without waiting. No follow-up visits, no emergency contact updates. The boy moved again and again. Group homes, temporary shelters, church basement during winter. Each place wrote the same note. Quiet child, polite, doesn't ask for much. A former shelter worker remembered him. She told the investigator. Jonah used to wake early to mop floors before breakfast. Not asked to, just did it. He learned fast. She said, "If you help, you eat." Another man said the kid folded donated clothes like he was afraid of wrinkling them, like he thought he'd be punished if he messed up. While Jonah survived that way, Ethan Caldwell upgraded his life. The investigator pulled property records. a penthouse downtown purchased in cash, 2 luxury vehicles, jewelry invoices, private club memberships. Photos online showed smiling faces, champagne glasses, a new wife dressed in white. Comments under the post said things like, "Living the dream" and "Blessed life." None of the people praising him knew where the money came from. Malcolm read the report alone. No assistants, no lawyers. He sat at his desk and turned each page slowly like speed might break something. Fragile. His hands did not shake, his chest did. The room felt too small, like the walls were listening. He stopped at a photo taken by a shelter volunteer. Jonah sat on a thin mattress, hoodie sleeves pulled over his hands. He looked straight at the camera, eyes older than they should have been, not scared, just done hoping. Malcolm pressed his lips together. He did not swear. He did not cry. He stared at the image until it burned behind his eyes. Outside his office, staff whispered. Someone said, "Did you hear?" Someone else said, "That poor kid." No one dared ask him anything directly. Malcolm closed the file. He stood slow and deliberate and reached for his coat. Christmas Eve had hours left, and his grandson had waited long enough. The shelter sat behind a closed grocery store, lights buzzing like they were tired of staying on. Paper snowflakes drooped in the windows. Someone had tried to make it festive. It didn't fool anyone. Malcolm stepped inside without announcing himself. The room smelled like disinfectant and wet coats. A volunteer glanced up, recognized his face from the news, then froze. Word traveled fast in places like this. A woman whispered, "That's him." And another replied, "About time." Jonah sat near the wall, knees pulled in, backpack at his feet. He wore the same hoodie from the photo. The sleeves still hid his hands. He looked up when Malcolm stopped in front of him, not startled, just alert, like someone used to strangers deciding things for him. "I'm Malcolm," he said gently. "I'm your grandfather." Jonah studied him. Not his face first, his shoes, his watch, then his eyes. "My dad said you wouldn't come," Jonah said. His voice was steady. "To steer, die. He said you hated me." Malcolm swallowed. He lowered himself onto the chair across from him, slow, so he wouldn't spook the moment. Around them, the room softened. People pretended not to listen. They listened anyway. He said, "You blamed me." Jonah continued, "For my mom." The words landed heavy. Malcolm felt the weight of 13 years crash all at once. He reached into his coat and pulled out a folder, edges worn from being opened too many times already. "I never missed a month," he said quietly. He slid the papers across. Bank statements, dates, amounts, 13 years of proof laid out in black and white. Jonah didn't touch them at first. He stared like they might disappear. "That money was for you," Malcolm said. "For your life, your future." Jonah finally reached out. His fingers brushed the paper like it might burn. His breathing changed, shallow, fast. He didn't cry. He nodded once, small. A phone rang. Malcolm's. The screen lit up with Ethan's name. Malcolm answered. "Calm?" "Yes." Ethan's voice came through sharp and impatient. He complained about stores closing early, about last-minute shopping. He asked for $50,000. Said Jonah needed clothes, tuition. "You know how expensive kids are," he joked. Malcolm watched Jonah's face as he listened. Something hardened there. Understanding arrived, quiet and brutal. "I'll send it," Malcolm said. He ended the call and stood. He placed his coat gently around Jonah's shoulders. Jonah stiffened, then relaxed just a little. "We're leaving," Malcolm said. No one stopped them. Outside, the air was cold and clean. Jonah walked beside him, unsure but not resisting. Behind them, someone murmured, "That kid's finally going home." Malcolm opened the car door. But home wasn't finished with the truth yet. Malcolm did not rush. That mattered. Rage wanted speed. Justice needed patience. He drove Jonah to his house first, the long way, letting the city lights talk instead. Jonah watched everything through the window like he was memorizing proof that this was real. Inside the house, staff froze. A housekeeper whispered a prayer. Someone offered hot chocolate and stopped halfway. Unsure, Malcolm waved them off. He sat Jonah at the kitchen island himself, placed food in front of him, waited until he ate. Only then did Malcolm move. He made 2 calls, one to his attorney, one to the police. Both were calm, specific, no drama. Ethan arrived an hour later, irritated, confident, already counting money in his head. He didn't knock. He never had before. He stopped when he saw the officers. Then he saw Jonah for half a second. His face cracked. "What is this?" Ethan snapped. "You can't just take him." Malcolm said nothing. He watched. The officers asked questions. Ethan talked too much. He complained. He blamed stress. He laughed when he shouldn't have. The bank records came out. The shelter records followed. Photos, dates, signatures. Every excuse collapsed under its own weight. Ethan tried a different tone. He said the boy was difficult, that no one wanted him, that Malcolm wouldn't understand. He said the marriage was a mistake. Then he said worse things about race, about money, about entitlement. Jonah stood behind the counter, quiet again, listening. When the cuffs clicked, the room exhaled. Ethan shouted once, called Malcolm names he thought still mattered. They didn't. The officers walked him out while neighbors watched roof-cracked doors, phones raised, whispers flying. "That's the guy," someone said, "the rich one's husband." Another voice answered, "Not anymore." Charges stacked fast. Fraud, identity theft, child neglect, hate-driven abuse. The numbers were read out loud. Years followed. 20 of them. Malcolm closed the door after they left. The house felt different, cleaner, still. Jonah looked up at him, not smiling, not crying. "Am I in trouble?" he asked. Malcolm crossed the room and knelt so they were eye level. He spoke slow, careful, like every word mattered. "No," he said, "you were stolen." Jonah nodded. The word landed. It fit. For the first time, nothing inside him argued back. Outside, snow started to fall. Christmas came quietly that night, and nothing would ever be hidden again. The first weeks were slow. That was intentional. Malcolm did not overwhelm Jonah with gifts or explanations. He let mornings arrive gently. Breakfast at the same time, quiet car rides, simple choices, what to eat, where to sit, which room felt safest. Trust rebuilt in inches, not leaps. Jonah flinched at raised voices on television. He apologized too often. He asked permission to drink water. Malcolm noticed everything. He corrected nothing with force, only consistency. At night, Malcolm told stories about Leanne, small ones, the way she laughed at bad jokes, how she used to fall asleep reading. Jonah listened like the past was something he could finally touch. Legacy stitched itself back together thread by thread. The trial ended quickly. The evidence was heavy. The sentence was final. 20 years sounded unreal until it wasn't. The world moved on. Headlines faded. The boy stayed. 2 years passed. Jonah grew taller. His voice changed. The guarded look softened. Though it never fully disappeared. It didn't need to. Survival left marks. Malcolm never tried to erase them. On a cold morning they stood side by side at a small podium. No dramatic music. No big speeches, just truth. They announced a foundation for children abandoned, exploited, and erased by the people meant to protect them. Shelters would be funded, legal aid provided, names restored. A reporter asked Jonah how it felt to be rich now. Jonah paused. He glanced at Malcolm, then back at the camera. "I wasn't poor," he said quietly. "I was lied to." The clip spread fast. People shared it with comments like, "That hurt and this matters." Survivors wrote letters. Parents hugged their kids tighter. That night, Malcolm found Jonah in the living room reading. He looked up and smiled, real and unguarded. "I know now," Jonah said, "you never left." Malcolm nodded. "Some things once found never get lost again. If this story hits you, don't scroll past it. Someone out there still believes a lie they were told about their worth. Stay sharp, pay attention. Question what looks comfortable but feels wrong. And if you want more stories that expose hidden truths, protect the innocent, and remind you that silence is never neutral, subscribe now. These stories matter, and so do the people living